Hey guys, it's Leon here. Today I'm going to talk about how we may face a lot of pressure when we have goals and obligations and standards to live up to. At the same time, we don't want to get rid of these goals or obligations and standards simply for a peaceful life because I think these things really do matter to us. So, how do we go about motivating ourselves towards these things without being stifled by a sense of overwhelming pressure? Now, something that we could do is we could look at the fact that the words have to has on our lives. We might say to ourselves, I have to meet this goal. I have to do this obligation. I have to meet this standard. You might think, well, saying have to is part and parcel with goals and part and parcel with obligations and part and parcel with standards, right? These things are things you have to do. That's the nature of them. Pay attention to the energy behind the words have to. It's a very straining energy to kind of carry around. When I talk with my clients, they could use a lot of have to phrases in their life. I have to do this. And I could see them like kind of like tense up, right? So just ask, is using this phrase useful for myself? It's causing some sort of constraint. So the thing is, this constraint is actually not going to be helpful for you to fulfill these goals, obligations, and standards in the long run. So I want you to think about a musician, a dancer, an athlete. So they're encouraged, yes, to be disciplined, but at the same time, not carry themselves with such a forceful pressure. It's like having really bad posture when you're dancing or doing sports or holding the musical instrument. You can actually feel that constraint. Like when you're listening to music, so I'm a musician myself, so I know. You see, you can hear someone trying to perform perfectly, but because they kind of have that strainedness to them, like they put a lot of pressure themselves to have to be perfect, you could feel like that music gets reduced somehow, like it's not fully expressed, and you can feel exhaustion in the music. So a dancer, musician, athlete, they carry themselves in a kind of loose kind of manner. Yes, they're mindfully disciplined, but that's different from saying, I have to do this or I have to do that, like in that really kind of rigid way. So I want to provide you with an alternative that's much more empowering and also motivating than the words have to. The thing is with have to, when you have a have to phrase, there's often like a secret or else. And when I work with my clients, this is something that I often encounter, this secret or else that's hiding behind the have to. So you might say to yourself, I have to, for instance, have good finances, right? And that seems like a have to kind of thing, right? You can't not have money, right? But still, whatever we do in our lives, we're making a choice. There's nothing in our lives in which we do not have a choice over. So, like with finances, like you're still choosing to make money. And that's because underneath that, you value financial independence, for example, right? Or you value being able to support others. So, often we might say to ourselves, I have to be good at my finances or else. And what often comes after that is a self referencing phrase like, I'm incapable or I'm unworthy. That often follows that. Or like a lot of clients, they tell me, I have to take care of my mental health. That sounds like a big have to, like a big obligation, right? Because you don't want to have bad mental health, but you're still choosing to take care of your mental health. I choose to care for my mental health. And often behind that is a value that's important. Like it's important for me to do this. It's important for me to take care of myself. It's important for me to foster my own personal growth. So these are like very meaningful values. When people say I have to take care of my mental health, the thing is, anyone could choose to do nothing, right? You don't have to choose to do anything in your life. You could choose to not take care of your mental health at all. You are making a choice here. And often we say, I have to take care of my mental health or else I'm unworthwhile, or else I'm a loser, or something along those lines. There's actually a deep-seated self-referencing statement somewhere underneath. Even if it's like a family responsibility, I have to take care of my family, or else I'm a bad parent, right? Something that's self-referencing like that. And you could find that it's still a choice there because you're still choosing to take care of your family. You're choosing to take care of your family because you value responsibility. You value nurturing others, right? These are things that are very important to you. And these are things that you highly desire to do. But saying I highly desire something is very different from saying I have to do something. And when people say have to, often it just creates a lot of pressure, especially if they're basing their whole entire self worth on a singular action. And that's often what people do. People think in such black and white ways. So it does not help because when people are self referencing like that, when they're self conscious, it's actually harder to do a singular task because all your self worth is placed on the singular task in such a way that it creates so much pressure, it's hard to think straight. Think about it like when you're in flow, when you're in a flow doing something, like for instance, you do a sport and you're engaged in a moment, you're doing your best, it's often you forget about yourself, right? Or you're painting, you forget about yourself, or even things, they're not recreational. Like when you are just like in a zone, taking care of your finances, for example, there's this loss, you kind of lose that sense of selfhood, right? You kind of just focus on a task in itself. And that's when you do your best work, when you're not self-conscious about it, right? That have to or else makes you very self-conscious about what you do. It could motivate you in the short term, but in the long term, it's very exhausting. It makes you want to procrastinate and not want to do anything anymore. So I just want to say here that I've worked with people on parole before. So they have a choice between going to jail or attending therapy. And the thing is, they feel like they tell me like, oh, I have to come here. I have to come here into these sessions, right? Or else I'll be in jail. But the thing is, I let them know this is a choice that they're willing to make because they're choosing either to go to jail or to come here into the outpatient clinic to work with me. When they realize it's a choice that they're making based on a value that they realize they have much more power in this decision than they have thought because they're choosing to meet the terms of their parole because they value their freedom. They value having a life that is much more enriching than being in jail. So I just want to share with you that I've written an article on this topic called Turn a Have to Do to an Empowering Choice. I think it's very useful to engage in what you learn in different modalities. So you've watched a video on this, and this is a written article form of this. And I think this will help reinforce the concepts that you have learned here. And I want to let you know too that I've recently written an article called Coming to Peace with Conflicting Sides of Yourself. And if you want to read that and the previous article I've mentioned about, I have a link to both of those articles down below in the description box. Thank you so much for watching.